Yeah, that's my type of sword. Just some side quests to do.
Wanted to send a message.
He's gonna be more involved. I've gone full 4-8 with the red black.
You've lost a letter. Nothing too important, I hope.
Not just a letter. I lost everything. There's a hole in my damn pack, and fool that I am, I didn't bloody notice.
It can't be that bad, surely.
How could it be any worse? I'm a courier. I carry things. If I can't do my job right, then what am I good for? Nothing, that's what. I buggered it right up. That means no herbs for the infirmary, and no fresh meat for our cooking pots. Worst of all, that letter I lost? It was for Sid. A letter he's been waiting on for days.
Maybe if you retrace your steps.
I'd scour Storm from coast to coast if I could, but there are curse breakers in the field, counting on my arrival. No, I'll just have to own up to Otto and Sid. They're gonna skin me alive.
Fine. Tell me where to look.
Are you serious? Thank you.
It sounds like the hideaway could use those supplies. So, where should I start?
Gotan's bales, perhaps? I took a tumble in the bushes when I was passing through. There's a chance my pack might have caught on something. If you can find everything I dropped, you'll be doing us all a favor. And if you can find Sid's letter, you'll be saving my life.
If it's there, I'll find it.
Wonderful. Now, I have to run if I'm to make my next delivery in time. I trust you can find your way to Gotan's bales. Oh, and hurry, will you? Sid doesn't like to be kept waiting.
I'm sure he doesn't. Guess I won't last very long out in the elements. I should make for Sambrek as soon as I can.
How about right now? Well, this looks like at least there's multiple things for me to grab.
The courier said his pack might have split while he was passing through the bales. I better keep my eyes open. Good. Looks like I'm in the right area. More of the lost supplies. I doubt he could have fit much more in his pack. Still no sign of Sid's letter, though. We've come this far. Might as well ask around.
A little overdressed to be picking grapes, aren't you? Are you here for Master Quentin?
I'm looking for a letter someone dropped nearby. And I suppose you've seen it.
Can't say I have, sorry.
Well, if you do...
Wait, I did pass a dog with something in its mouth a little while back. Could have been a piece of paper. No idea if it was your letter, but you never know.
Which way did it go?
Towards Lostwing? Seemed well looked after to me. Dare say someone there's been feeding it.
To the village, then. Thank you.
So I could just teleport there, but I'll take the scenic route. At least the side quests are like getting a bit more involved.
It's looking to be a fine.
Oh. Okay, maybe I shouldn't have taken the scenic route. There wasn't anything. Now I'm just wasting time.
Back, are ya? Did Master Quentin summon ya?
The shad's all salted and smoked.
A whole day on the line and they're still not right.
It seems we have our culprit. Sorry, boy.
That is.
Someone's waiting for this. He's waited long enough already. Hopefully this will keep our career out of trouble.
That was the quest. That was the quest. Go there, press X 3 times. Go to another spot, press X 1 time. Excellent.
I heard Otto barking at his lot earlier.
I'm back, I pressed X.
Maybe I should just own up. Well, there you are. I just got back to the hideaway and thankfully Otto hasn't seen me yet. I don't suppose you...
I just got back to the hideaway. We talked to you in the hideaway. What are you talking about? You were already here. We just talked in the same spot.
On the things you dropped, I did.
What happened with these side quests?
I was so sure they'd be gone. And the letter?
Only a little worse for wear.
No more skulking about in the shadows for me then. And all thanks to you. Losing those supplies was one thing, but if Sid had found out about that letter...
Is it about Cursebreaker business?
Oh, did he? I don't remember him saying that. Alright, my bad then.
If only. It's from his daughter. She's off studying in Canver, and her letters are all that keeps Sid sane while she's away.
He never mentioned a daughter.
Oh, he's a busy man. And thanks to you, he won't be wasting his time smiting careless couriers with levin boats. So I'd say you did us both a service.
Is that where he got that scar?
For your troubles. If there's anything you're wanting...
Yeah, my bad then.
Today's the day. He'll be sweet as honey once he gets his hands on
Also,
this.
cool that we got a little bit of backstory for Sid for that. If only the actual quest was more than pressing X, it would have been a perfect side
There's a
quest.
commotion in the main hall.
Maybe that his bearer tattoo removed. That doesn't sound pleasant.
He's never this late. Where are you, Randall?
Is everything all right?
Forgive me, young man. I was in a world of my own. I'm worried about my friend, you see. He left some time ago and hasn't returned. And you know what it's like out there for a bearer on his own.
Why leave the safety of the hideaway?
For coin. Sad though it is, our need outweighs the risk. The hideaway can't survive on goodwill alone. And though Karen does what she can, her coffers aren't bottomless. Wait, you were a soldier, were you not? In the Imperial Army?
I was.
Then might I ask a favour of you? I'm too old to be traipsing hither and yon. Will you go and
Hither
find
and
me
yon.
for me?
I'll do what I can.
Oh, thank you.
What can you tell me about your friend?
His name is Randall, and I suspect you'll find him in Lost Wing. He's been working for Quinton, the tavern keeper. He'll know something, I'm sure.
Lost Swing
Speak to
again?
him.
Safe travels, my friend. And thank you again.
swing again. Yeah, they're still saying like everything is a reward of nothing. Like just say mystery reward or something.
That'll be enough for today.
It's weird that every side quest is 0 gil.
Ah, if it isn't Sid's young protege. To what do I owe the pleasure?
I'm looking for a bearer called Randall. I hear he's been coming to you for work. He was expected back at the hideaway some time ago. A friend of his asked me to check on him.
Randall, you say? The porter? Yes, I know him. And I can't say I'm surprised if he has been delayed. I gave him enough to do. Though, thinking about it, he should probably have been back by now.
I'll go and look for him. Where was he headed?
I'll go look for
An associate
him.
of mine to the south of here, on Lorbert's Pass. I do hope nothing's happened to him.
Wait,
Be sure to let me know, Clive.
we're going back to the field? Oh no, we're going this way, okay. At least it's a different area. Holy cow. Overall, how does the game feel for you? How do you feel about it compared to Final Fantasy VII Remake Kingdom Hearts gameplay? It's definitely way different. It is not an action RPG. It is a action game with RPG elements. So, can't really compare it to those two games. But compared to other action games, it's very good. I have some issues with the way that it's implementing RPG elements, but the actual combat itself and gameplay itself is very fun. And the story is really great too.
The shad's all salted and smoked. But it'll be an ache. Before the stink's gone from my skirts.
I forget how to go this way. Oh, across the bridge. How's it going, Craig? We are like... I don't know if we've hit like 20 hours yet. Actually, my profile should say. Although it's usually pretty... Actually, it won't, because I'd have to quit the game. Does this say? No, that's just the time, I think. Not the amount I've been playing. I think that's just the time of day. Maybe? Maybe that is the amount of time I've been playing. In which case, about 16 hours. That sounds right. 16 hours? No, it's the time of day. Okay. We've been playing for about that amount of time, but that's the time. Yeah, something like 19, 20-ish hours. But I've also been going pretty slow. So, yeah, that was funny. It happens to be about 4 o'clock, so that's about 16 o'clock in military time. And we've been playing for a little over 16 hours. But yeah, I'm definitely taking the scenic route. Been doing all the side quests, been constantly stopping to talk about things, and really exploring everything before I continue, and workshopping some of the combos and stuff. So, like, yeah, definitely playing it at a very slow pace. 2 gil, let's freaking go. I mean, at one point, I read, like, most of the lore. I haven't in a while, though, because nothing's really been confusing. Really, with games like this, and with, like, these medieval games, I think my issue stems with, like, understanding the world state, you know? Too many games, like Final Fantasy XII especially, it took me so long to, like, and I probably still don't even know exactly how the world is in terms of, like, the kingdoms. So, like, I always get confused as to what kingdom is what and who's invading who and blah, blah, blah. But near the start of the game, I went to the lore thing and I just read about, like, all the kingdoms and everything. And I tried to connect each person to their kingdom. And I kind of did that. So now that that's set in my head, everything else has been much easier for me to understand. And there hasn't really been a moment where I was, like, confused by anything going on since I did that. But some games never really do that. So I never get the ability to kind of get the general worldview. And then every time I see a character, I'm like, wait, where's that character from? You know.
All right.
The hanged man. Thank the gods. You're one of us. We were attacked. Beastmen on the road. Randall knew he didn't play the hero, but reckless sod insisted on drawing him off.
Where did this happen?
Further down the road. In the clearing. Please. You have to see that he's safe.
I'll do what I can. You go back to Lost Wing and tell Quentin what happened.
You know, like 4 steps down that way. You could probably yell and he'd hear you. To be fair. And look at that, they're right here. I can.
Goblins.
Goblins.
Surprised.
I think I used my item on accident. Haha! You can use that to dodge. Oh, okay, that was amazing. Welp.
Sorry, Randall. Looks like I was too late. He doesn't deserve to rot by the roadside. I'll speak to Quentin.
Yeah, I'm more of just like memeing about it at this point, but it is kind of weird how the scale of things seems really strange. Especially in a PS5 game where at this point, we can make the worlds big enough for distances to make sense. You know what I mean? Most games I play on PS5, if they say it happened, you know, like, if there's a character running away from something, there's a meaningful distance between it, you know, and we can make the world big enough to make that distance make sense. But here it feels more like, almost like a PS2 game where there was a limitation with how big they can make the world, so you get a weird instance where they're like, I was attacked by goblins and ran all the way here, and then the goblins are like 2 feet away, you know. But like, this is a PS5 game, we could obviously do a better job of making the distances seem to make sense. It's not a big deal, obviously, but it's just kind of funny. With the side quests, you kind of expect that, but yeah, I think they could have made the world a bit bigger. And again, like, a lot of these side quests would be improved greatly if it was just, there was a bit more of a distance and we just placed some enemies, you know? If to get to those goblins I fought, I had to fight through 2 or 3 other battles, then this would be like a substantial side quest. Instead, I fought one fight and now I'm back to, you know, the quest is already over. At least they are starting to get a bit more involved, but I'm just really underwhelmed by, well, no, because 15 was an open world game, but I'm just really underwhelmed by the side quests in general. Like, why aren't they more exciting? Why can't we have a quest that's like, oh man, my buddy Randall, he got lost in the marsh. Can you go rescue him? And then we go there and we fight a slightly stronger version of the Marball we fought at the beginning of the game. You know, like, that would not be something that would take a ton of dev time. You take the Marball and you up his stats and you put him in the same arena. You know what I mean? And that would be infinitely more interesting. Then we could use all of our new abilities on the Marball again, but now he's stronger. And we could use what we learned from the previous Marball fight. It would be like infinitely more interesting than just here's some more goblins to fight. You know?
Ah, there you are. My man told me what happened.
My man.
And I can't help but notice you're alone. Damn it. I feared as much.
He's not far from the south gate. I trust you'll do right by him.
Of course. I'll send someone right away. I knew he was brave, though I didn't know he was reckless. Poor fool.
And you known him long?
A while. I liked the fact that he didn't shy away from dangerous work, and he liked what I paid.
Because it helped keep the hideaway afloat.
I'll tell Sid what happened.
But I do like the world building from the side quests. Like, the side quests are written well.
And I suppose
really
you're
well.
None too happy either. For your trouble.
We're not doing any, I mean, well, even the quests that we've been memeing about with the feeding everyone, even that was interesting because of the interactions we had with the people that we were feeding. But like, yeah, we're not doing any quests where it's like, oh, I lost my doll, and then you pick up the doll, and then the girl's like, thanks for getting my doll. You know, they all build the world. They all give you some kind of explanation of something. Like, they're written really well. It's just such a shame that they're not fun to do.
Can I have another cup, Daddy?
There'll be none left for me.
You know what else is kind of weird? Hold on. Let me... I wanted to read what Vierta said. I already cleared out that area. I don't want to have to go back and re-clear it every time I have to go back, even if stronger enemies, it's time consuming. Well, like, in a perfect world, the side quests would all have their own areas, but I'm saying, like, I'm trying to improve the game without increasing dev time. You know what I mean? Because like that's something we can't control. It feels like the side quests in this game were an afterthought. Like, oh crap, we have to put in side quests because it's an RPG. And I understand that, and I understand that we can't have super elaborate side quests like Forbidden West. But I'm trying to solve the problem as in, like, let's have more entertaining side quests that don't add dev time, that don't add, you know, we can't go back in time and spend more time on them. But how could we change them so that it would be better without increasing the budget, right? And for me, it makes sense to, instead of we have to go fight the same group of goblins, or even we don't have to fight anything at all, reuse those same assets, reuse the same bosses, the mini bosses that were entertaining. Like the lizard thing we fought, super fun fight. The Marball we fought, super fun fight. And we can go back and fight those in the replay function, but we're super strong and annihilate them unless we play arcade mode. So why not have a little spin on the Marball? Give us a great Marball that has like one extra attack and his stats are buffed. That would be just as easy to create than like one of these. I mean, maybe with an extra attack that would be a bit more dev time, but you see what I'm saying? Like there's different ways you could do it to where it'd be more interesting and worth the time of doing, because let's be real, the rewards you get for these side quests are certainly not worth the time. They are all awful. The only thing we're getting out of these side quests is world building. So, you know, I definitely think there was better ways to do it. But you know what else is really strange? This is a Square Enix game, and not just a Square Enix game, but a main series Square Enix game. A big boy Square Enix game. And I have not played cards yet, bet on Chocobo races yet, played some board game with Moogles yet, done a push-up competition yet. And I know that this game is more serious, so, you know, having like a gold saucer wannabe would be a bit silly. But it is honestly really weird to be playing a main series Final Fantasy game and not have some kind of mini game, some kind of Gwent, some kind of, like, I'm not even talking goofy stuff. I'm talking just some, because Square Enix loves to have these little side game modes to switch things up. They're all about that. They love to have separate gameplay so that you never get sick of the main gameplay. So they always do that. Kingdom Hearts, they do that. Final Fantasy, they do that. All of their series, they always try to have like one little, oh, you can play cards for a minute, or oh, you can play this board game for a minute. Just something to break up the monotony. And I feel like more so than any other game, this would be a great game to have that, because it's an action game. It's a, for lack of a better term, hack and slash. It's not really, it's more combo based, but you get it. It's like a hack and slash game where the combat definitely could get monotonous. So you'd think they'd want to implement something just to break it up, right? And I really do feel like it was a dev time thing, along with the side quests. That's the... I'm getting the impression that this game was a bit rushed. And I don't mean that in a negative way in terms of like the game sucks, but I do get this impression that there was things they wanted to do. They wanted to have some kind of side game mode. They wanted to have side quests that were more involved. They wanted to have an equipment system that was more involved, because it is incredibly bare bones. But they just didn't have the time. They focused all their efforts on the combat and the story. And it definitely shows. But all the other small aspects of the game are really lacking. Hardcore. And I could safely say that now that we're in, 18 hours in. I didn't want to say that before because we hadn't played a lot yet. But I think it's safe to say now that the equipment system, the blacksmithing system, pretty much everything that isn't the action or the story or the music is lacking. And even the graphics looks great, but as Fried Zombie was saying, the performance is lacking if you play on the graphics mode. I've noticed some little issues with the FPS, like especially in cutscenes. It's definitely not Final Fantasy VII Remake level of like polish, with the exception of those crappy textures that we all meme about. But you know, it is not the absolute most polished game I've ever played. Oh, and the interactions with the characters when you're not in cutscenes. You know, that also is a bit rough. Like this interaction we're about to have now with oh, never mind, that was the end of the side quest. I thought I'd have to go talk to the guy. I never had to talk to the guy. But yeah, never had to tell him. But yeah, the little interactions with the NPCs.
Surely his life was worth more than a handful of coin.
You know, they're lacking. So it really does give me this feeling of a lot of the game was rushed, unfortunately, which is a shame. But I don't want people to take that out of context and be like, well, he hates it. Or, well, it sucks. Because it doesn't. But, yeah, there definitely is these things that I'm noticing that are like, yeah, they did not flesh this out as much as they wanted to. And, you know, that moment where you get the sword and the armor and it's all better than everything you've ever gotten and everything you could ever buy up to this point, that kind of feels like that was a rushed decision too. Like they wanted to have more going on with the equipment, and they just couldn't. So they were just like, here, have this cool stuff, just to kind of get you through this part. Yep, worst game ever made. Not even Final Fantasy. Oh, for sure, Trev. But even if we don't look at it through the lens of Forbidden West, it's still like only subpar. Like they're pretty stiff in these conversations, you know. I think it's fair to say for a PS5 game, it's a bit stiff when you talk to the NPCs and they just kind of stand there and talk all stiff like this. But yes, I agree. I compare a lot of things to Forbidden West, and it's a shame, you know, it makes me feel like every other game is worse now because of how great it was. No, I haven't tried the other mode because I'm playing in 2K, so I don't think I'll see any difference, and I don't want to I don't want to leave it on that setting for too long. But I don't think if I switch to it, I'll see an immediate difference because I'm playing in 2K and you guys are seeing 1080. So, I mean, I don't think we're going to notice it. I don't think we'll notice the FPS difference much either, but I mean, I could try it. You think it'll be that? I didn't think it would be that obvious. But, Zombie made it seem like, Can I not change it? I can't change it. I don't know why, but I can't change it. Oh. 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 That's, wow. That is bizarre. That really makes me feel like, I mean, that really makes me feel like the game was rushed. And don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to be up on my high horse. Everything has to be 60 FPS or else game sucks. But in today's landscape, and given Square Enix is one of the big players, that's not something we should be seeing on PS5. On PS5, games should be 60 FPS, 2K, 4K. This should simply be like, if I set this to graphics, it should be like still 60 FPS, but just dip a bit more. You know what I mean? It should not be locked to 30. Like, that's awful. That is unacceptable by PS5 standards and Square Enix standards. That's just not right. And even at frame rate, it's not locked at 60. I mean, that's just bad. That is... We rushed it out the door at that point. Is it so horrid that the game's unplayable and we should give it a 0 out of 10? No. But that gives me even more of an impression. Throw away the game. That gives me even more of an impression that it was rushed. That gives me a very big impression that it was rushed.
Clive, was it?
What a shame. Or maybe, you know, saying that it was rushed maybe is not correct. Maybe more of just, it was, their priorities were different. Their priorities were shifted towards combat and story only, you know. But they could have done it all. They could have done it all had they had the time or the money, you know.
To our friends, and to those who might have been.
Right. I mean, they have the resources. It's one of those things where this will be good enough, ship it. And to be fair, it is good enough. It's a great game. At least I think it is so far. But, you know,
I heard Otto barking at his lot earlier.
The
Didn't sound happy.
game person that I am wishes that every game was as good as it could be, and this game could definitely be better. Square Enix is definitely capable of making a game that's 60 FPS 4K on PS5. Like, 100%, you know? Just look at the remake. Look at the remake on PS5, and that was a PS4 game that they had to upscale. And it's gorgeous. You got a problem, mate? He's like, I don't agree with you. This game looks great. I'm gonna go sit down, get drunk. Yeah, it's just a bit sad. I'm not saying game sucks. It's just a bit sad because, like I said, the remake was gorgeous. 4K, 60 FPS, easy, beautiful. From what I remember, no problems with the remaster of it. Now, I didn't play it at 4K, but from what I heard, it was perfect. It had those issues with the stupid textures on its original release, but yeah. Oh, for sure. And you know, that's kind of what I was saying before with, is it something where the game is ruined? Certainly not. But it is something that I think is, you know, reasonable to assume that a new Square Enix game on PS5, given that they didn't put this on PS4, it should be running at the standard, which is, you know, locked 60 FPS. You think? I don't know. It doesn't matter really. Yeah, I think you're right. I think the remake ran. Well, I don't know much about
Miss Molly?
the remaster, but
You could rinse and chop these
I know
greens
it
for
was
stew,
locked
I
at
suppose.
60, and this game isn't locked at 60 even if you set it the frame rate. Even if you set it the frame rate, it's not locked at 60. So I mean that's a problem, I would say. The remake was definitely, you know, if you put it at frame rate, it was locked. But that's the remake. That was like a while ago. That wasn't even a PS5 game. It's not a very good comparison. I was just using it as a comparison because it's also a Square Enix game. But yeah, I mean, perhaps it's the engine. I don't know. That's all to be determined, but yeah, it's just, I think, I don't know. Like I said, the reason I brought it up wasn't to say it's a bad game. The reason I brought it up was because there's many other things in this game that are giving me the impression that they had to rush it out the door at some point. The equipment system, some of the choices with, like, when you get certain things, the side quests, the NPC interactions, they're all stuff that I've seen better in Square Enix games made before this. So it definitely gives me this feeling of, we put all of our focus on combat and story, and everything else we pushed to the side, and then it was time to ship. And the fact that the game is not locked to 60 FPS, the fact that the game plays pretty poorly in graphics mode, just gives me another point on that scale. You know what I'm saying? Like, gives me another reason to believe that perhaps they could have cooked it longer, and they chose not to, because this year Square Enix needed a big game. Kingdom Hearts 4 is still way out on the horizon. Remake Part 2 is still way out on the horizon. Well, not that far out now, but not this year. So, you know, they needed their big game for this year, and so here we are.
Take a seat, Clive. I'll fetch you a bowl of brown.
Bowl of brown. I'm all set. You keep that.
And how might this old soul be of service? I have a few new notes that might interest you.
Yeah, pretty curious. I would love to see. I mean, I think we're all hoping.
Fascinating excerpt I've been meaning to show you.
We're all hoping that Rebirth plays like we wanted Remake to play. You know, full across the board. I mean, for me, 4K still isn't really a thing I care about, but I know a lot of people do. But for me, I'm happy with the game just actually being locked at 60 FPS and not having to select it as a mode. Because that just seems silly to me. You know, they sold us the PS5 as being, you know, as strong as a PC. You can play all these games on PS5 easy. It'll run 60 FPS 4K out of the box, and then every game that we buy, you have to sacrifice one or the other. Sacrifice the FPS or sacrifice the graphics. And it just, at this point, how long's the PS5 been out? And we're still at the point where we haven't truly mastered what they said it was going to be at launch. I think that's a fair thing to complain about. I think that's, I mean, yes, shocker, the marketing lied, but yeah, now we get to look forward to the PS5 Pro, where they're going to say, now it really plays 60 FPS 4K. You just gotta buy this other version of it. That's what I'm waiting for. I wouldn't be surprised. Then this time it's for real. Mark my words, we're gonna get a PS5 Pro that when you play games like this, you don't have to select graphics or FPS. That'll be their big sell. Oh, you can play Forbidden West, so you don't have to pick performance over graphics. It's just going to gray that section out, and you just get both. Buy the PS5 Pro now. It's only $2,000. Oh, I was interested about this. An international pact made at the dawn of the present era in which such matters as the treatment of bearers and the establishment of a realm-wide currency were laid out. It formed the basis of much of the Villistian society as it stands today, including the branding of bearers and their status as non-persons. It also put into place a universal calendar, making a symbolic fresh start for mankind, albeit one which puts magic users at a crippling disadvantage. So I wonder if there's a reason it happened in that year. The year 0. Was that when the bearers started being born or something and they were like, oh crap, we have to figure something out? Or was it just a chaos-ridden land at that point, and then if they finally signed a thing to like, hey, let's stop just blowing each other up with the magic? Something like that. It's interesting. There was that quote at the start of the game where they said like the crystals appeared and we had the brave warriors save the crystals, but then the crystals cast a shadow. So like maybe that's what happened. Maybe like quote unquote Final Fantasy 1 happened. I don't think that's actually what they're saying, but like a story similar to Final Fantasy 1 happened, and then this happened, and then that's when the years started. The founder. Garland confirmed. Are we joking or not? No, we're not joking. They've already rumored a PS6, but my guess is it's actually a PS5 Pro. But who knows? We get to hear rumors like that all the time. You never know if it's actually going to happen or when it's going to happen. But I'm pretty convinced we'll get a PS5 Pro within the next few years. Maybe even sooner. I would not be surprised in the slightest if within the next year or two we heard PS5 Pro. I would be a bit surprised. I'd be more than a bit surprised. I'd be very surprised if within the next like 2 years we heard of a PS6. That seems ridiculous to me. Like that, I don't think they're not ready. They know that people won't jump architecture. Not most people haven't even jumped to PS5 yet. That's not something I think they would do. That would be a horrible business decision. But yes, a PS5 Pro, 100%. I see it happening within the next few years. I think it's kind of silly, but it's more of they couldn't really make the PS5 do exactly what they wanted to do, so they kind of have to do this. But no, I agree. I mean, a lot of people haven't even bought PS5, but see, from a marketing standpoint, that's actually a good thing that a lot of people have not bought PS5s yet, because now they can buy the PS5 Pro. If everyone had a PS5, they wouldn't want to run out and buy a PS5 Pro. But most people don't even have a PS5 yet. So if they're going to buy one, I might as well get the Pro. So that's exactly what they're thinking. 100%. Exactly what they're thinking. So, but yeah, we'll see. And they can even, at that point, if they're smart, lower the price of the PS5 when they announce the PS5 Pro. Will they do that? I don't know, but they could. we had a discussion a couple months ago about whether or not we think these are the final consoles. And it was kind of interesting to hear everyone's take on that. I'm kind of in the middle, but I do think that we've reached a bit of a limit to what consoles can offer. At this point, consoles are just PCs. The allure, for lack of a better term, of consoles is that they are easy. They are for the working man. You get home, you turn on your PS5, you play some Final Fantasy. You don't have to deal with turning on a computer. And I think that alone will carry consoles into the next 20 or 30 years. I do not think consoles are dead. I do not think consoles will be dead for a very long time. But in terms of having a PS6 and an Xbox 380, 420, Blaze It, 1X, Super X Series McDonald's, I don't think that happens until there's some kind of big shift into a different architecture. For example, VR or AR or something that the PS5 can't do that this new box can do. Because I really, truly do not think we sell a PS6 that can do 8K at 60 FPS. No one's buying that. No one's buying a box that's just a juiced up PS5. Unless it's the PS5 Pro and it's only slightly more expensive and it's got its own whatever. But in terms of a brand new console, a PS6, no one's buying it if it's just 8K at 120 FPS. The absolute diehards are buying it, but that's it. It is not going to be a commercial success. No way. People are already at that point where they don't care much about that stuff. I mean, that's why the PS5 sold all right. Don't get me wrong, but we're already seeing that a lot of people are just okay with their PS4s. People are just okay with, the way things are. I really don't think the gaps are getting so small at this point. We talked a lot. How's it going, Magic? We talked a lot about the jump between PS1, PS2, PS2, PS3 being probably the biggest jump in gaming history. The jump between PS3 and PS4. They all had these huge jumps that just made such a big difference. And the jump between PS4 and PS5 just isn't shiny enough for a lot of people. A lot of people look at the jump between PS4 and PS5 and they're like, it's just not the same. It's not that big. There's not that big grab. PS1 to PS2, huge jump. The 3D looked astronomically better. It plays DVDs. It was such a huge jump. PS2 to PS3, internet capability out of the box, friends lists, online multiplayer games. That jump was massive. Completely changed the game. PS3 to PS4, the UI is completely different. Everything is streamlined. It feels more like you're playing apps on a box, not this weird architecture, but it's like an app box where you could play Netflix and stuff and also be a gaming console. That was a pretty big jump. But this jump is different. It's all numbers. It's, it loads faster. The resolution is better. The FPS is better. And that's just not enough to grab the general audience. A lot of the general audience doesn't care. A lot of the general audience is like, hey, can I play God of War on my PS4? I can? Then I don't care. A lot of people are like, can I do VR on my PS4? I can? Well, I don't care. So like I said, I would be very shocked if we heard about a PS6 anytime soon. And if we did, I would already pin it as a commercial failure. 100%. Now, if they kind of targeted the core audience, then maybe it could be a success. But if they're trying to sell it to the general public, no way. There's just no way. Even a PS5 Pro, you're going to have a hard time getting people to buy that. I think if they do a PS5 Pro, they need to specifically design it towards the core audience, which it seems like they're doing more of, by the way, which is cool. Like the Pro controllers, this thing, the Edge controller, this thing is completely made for core audience and no one else. There's no way people are blowing the amount of money for this, you know, unless they're a core gamer, Sony fan, you know. And it's cool to see them do more of that. And that's what they need to do with the Pro. Whatever they do end up doing with the Pro, it needs to be specifically tailored towards their fans and not the general public. Because I'm telling you, it's not going to go well if that's what they try to do. So the PS6 will order your food. Doesn't the PS5 already do that? Good night, DoorDash something from my PS5. It has a browser, right? I could probably order food on it. I could probably order food with crypto on my PS5. Friggin' future. This is completely unrelated, but I saw some report of the very first crypto interaction. You probably heard of it, honestly, because it was crypto was such a thing that was in the public conscience for so long, but they made such a big deal out of the first purchase with crypto being a pizza. They're like, the very first thing that was actually purchased with crypto, like straight from crypto to the good, was pizza. And they made such a huge deal about it. Like, this is the future. Crypto's going to be the future. We're buying pizza. And I learned the other day, apparently, they didn't even buy the pizza. They sold crypto. The guy, basically, they bought a person to buy the pizza. They gave the person the crypto and said, buy me a pizza. There was a middleman. They said, John, here's your crypto. I want you to buy me a pizza. And that's what, yeah, by that logic, it could have been anything. You could have said the first pizza bought with Legos. Like, you could have given him Legos, could have given him anything. So they, so that wasn't even like, they totally played us. They're like, oh, it's the future. We're buying stuff with crypto now. And it wasn't even, I just found that really funny. Speaking of marketing lying to us, I just found that really funny that they touted that as like, we're here, guys. It's the future. We're buying pizza with crypto now. And it wasn't even, it was some backhanded exchange. Hey, here's my crypto. Buy me a pizza. We're going to make this into a news story. Anyways, it's completely off topic. Fear and uncertainty reigned in those early years following the sins of Keys. Not wanting to further incur the wrath of the heavens, the few who survived the fall took to wandering the land, spreading magic and staying into the shadows, and so they lived for decades. One man, however, grew tired of this life, if it could be called that, and after bidding his companions farewell, climbed a grassy knoll overlooking a forest of beech and alder. Here he gathered a pile of rubble and used it to build a humble shelter in which he spent the night. The next morning, however, instead of abandoning his work, as was his people's wont, he gathered more rocks, adding to the structure until the shelter had become a shack. This he continued for days, weeks, until the shack had become a home. At first, those few wanderers who passed the knoll would shun him, cursing the man under their breaths for his hubris. But as his estate grew and one building became two, and two, three, the people began to slow their steps. And it was not long before some took to joining him on that knoll, gathering stones, building new lives, new destinies. Sounds like the beginning of Lord of the Rings or something. They're building the... what's the name of that village? You know the one. This they did without magics or machines, without boon or blessing. They relied on naught but their hands, their backs, their wills, and each other. And slowly, house gave way to village, village to town, and town to nation. The man, yeah, Cleveland. The man who would one day die, as all men do, but those who remain continued his legacy, expanded upon it, and though his name was eventually forgotten, his spirit lives on to this day in the hearts of all Rosarians. So, this kind of gives us an idea as to why Rosaria was the way they were. But funny that even they didn't build much on their own accord. They still used crystals. So it kind of shows that maybe this is why they weren't so keen on enslaving people. I mean, they still did, but not to the same degree as the other kingdoms. But they still used crystals. They weren't like Sid's crew. They used crystals to survive, even though their original city was built on the blood, sweat, and tears of people and not using magic. It's really interesting. When did it change? When did the reliance on crystals take over the world?
If you have a question for me, I should be happy to answer it.
Here's the Emperor. I really feel like he's just going to be, like, cast aside. Like, he's just going to get killed and contribute nothing. Ooh, they added more to Sid now.
You are always welcome, Clive.
Do you need any help, Clive? Miss Molly? I'll fetch you a bowl of brown.
I don't know.
I'll fetch you a bowl of brown.
Going through with it. Sid's been talking about bringing down a mother crystal since I've known him. But that's all it's ever been. Talk.
He's convinced it's the right thing to do. We'll be leaving for the capital shortly.
Well, you couldn't have picked a better moment. Seems the hiding the royalists gave him wasn't enough to dampen old Sylvester's spirits. His legions are on the march again. This time, due south.
Another war.
All as the great Grieger wills it. Bloodthirsty little miss, that one. That's God's for you, innit?
In it.
Might work to our advantage on this occasion. Wars breed chaos. On the front lines, and at home. With a fair wind behind them, a handful of like-minded ne'er-do-wells could melt into the back alleys of Oriflamme. No trouble. It's making it to the capital that's the problem.
The checkpoint.
That's right. Anyone travelling in or out of Oriflamme has to go through Northreach. Lucky for you, I might just know of a way.
Liz.
Well, no, not that. That gets you an audience with the Dane.
Why did his voice change so much?
We'll see you safely through Northreach. I'll send a Stolas in the morning. Let her know you're coming. We go way back. And she's a true friend of the cause. I'm sure you'll get on like a house on fire.
That's good of you, but who is this dame, and where will I find her?
She's the proud proprietress of Northreach's foremost house of ill repute, the Vale. And she's quite a woman, if you know what I mean.
I knew we were going there. I could just tell. As soon as he called her a dame.
You know, with your charm now, lad. I'll be expecting a full report when you get back.
What does that mean? Say what? Why is he giving me the say what face? Alliant reports are now available for viewing by speaking to Gout at the Alliant report counter in the Hideaway's mess. These reports compiled by the Cursebreakers contain information on quests currently available. What's this about?
Everything. Now to find Gav.
Oh, you're the new lad, aren't you? Goat at your service. Well, at the hideaway service anyway. Otto's put me in charge of reading through the reports sent in by our allies and picking out any problems that might warrant the attention of the curse breakers. Or any other willing volunteers. And there's no shortage of problems, I can tell you. Or maybe I don't have to. I'll warrant a strapping lad like you's got people begging him for help wherever you go. Anyway, if you're ever interested in taking a look over the list, just say the word. Reckon you could probably tick off the odd thing here and there. They say little acts of kindness are their own reward. But if that ain't enough, these have got proper bounties on them and all. Anything catch your eye?
That's what I figured. So this is literally just a list of side quests. Which is nice. Because that means we won't miss any. I was going to have to, like, go into each individual map and just scroll around looking for them. Now we can do them all without worrying about missing any. But I was kind of hoping this was something new, and it's not. It's just a list of stuff, but yeah, still. Still a nice way of getting the side quest without it, because the only other way to do this would be to go to the map and then go to, well, it does show them on the map. It shows a little tick on the map. So actually, that's kind of a lame, that's kind of a lame thing, because you get to see them on the map. Huh. That seems a bit... It gives you the details. That's true.
Fancy giving us a hand? Quick look.
The details, as in 0 gil. Yeah. I'm gonna go ahead and say it. This is stupid. Why would you ever want this? Even if it told you what you were getting, would you ever really care? Like, would anyone really go here and be like, oh, this one's going to give me 1,500 and this one's only going to give me 1,000? Or would you just go do side quests? Like, would you really go here and, like, check everything? Well, here's the thing. I don't think you don't travel to the side quest. If I pick this, it's just going to travel to the closest thing, which is the same as if you pick it on the map. If I pick this, it takes me to the same place. So no, there's not really... You could literally get there faster from your menu. Let's see, we'll try the other one. But it said you can travel to the closest checkpoint, is what it said in the description. How do they teleport?
Right.
Maybe it's gonna be the same spot. Yep. So, yeah, it just takes you to the closest obelisk. Now, maybe maybe later we get some quests from that guy that, like, aren't on the map. I mean, I kind of doubt it, but maybe, you know, one of the side quests doesn't show up on this map. Maybe, you know, at the end of the game, we talk to him and he's like, oh, there's these Omega ruins that you need to check out. And then when you click that, it like appears on the map or something. I mean, I seriously doubt it, but perhaps that's the reason. Because other than that, like, what's the point? That's a really weird... That's a bit strange. But... anyways, this is a good place to stop, since we're gonna go do some side quests. So what do we think about today? Well, I didn't get any more things with the combat other than my Ifrit thing, but the combat is still fun. Story is still very entertaining. Like I said, I'm getting more and more of this vibe that a lot of parts of this game were just undercooked. Not unfinished, just undercooked. But I think that the good parts of the game make up for that, for sure. For me, at this point, I'm willing to deal with a lackluster equipment system because everything else is really good. So that's just kind of where I'm sitting. I don't know how you guys are sitting, but I think the good outweighs the bad, but there are some parts that feel a bit undercooked. But yeah, other than that, man, the characters are just so good, man. The characters are so good. I'm so invested in all the characters, so invested in the, you know, what's going to happen next. And I am really interested to see what happens with Joshua, because I really do feel like what we were talking about earlier, if they had waited to show him, it would have been much better. It's just an interesting thing. It reminds me of some of the stuff we talked about in Final Fantasy VIII. We were like, if they had just done this a bit differently, it could have been a lot better. Yeah, you know, definitely. We don't know the circumstances of why parts of games are rushed. We're not in there with the dev team. But as the players, we do have a right to call it out. That's what we're here for. So, but you know, it's never an attack on the dev team. It's never an attack on Square Enix. Like, you know, hopefully no one ever takes it that way. Just speaking our mind on what we see. And what we see is a fantastic game with some pretty obvious flaws. But we'll keep playing. We'll see how it goes. Maybe, unless we're talking about 15, yeah. No. But yeah, we'll see what happens next time. We're still, I mean, I don't know. Is the rest of the game going to be basically this? Some side quests here and there, and then we just go full force into the story? Or is there going to be more stuff that shows itself as we go? We'll see. There's still a thing on the board there that we haven't unlocked yet. So I'm kind of curious what that is. And we still only have 2 icons, so there's definitely more with the combat still to come. We only just got Limit Break. There might be more with that. So still a lot more to see. But as it's going right now, I'm definitely loving it. Still very much invested in everything. So that's that. I hope you enjoyed. We'll say goodbye to YouTube now. YouTube, thanks so much for watching Let's Play Final Fantasy XVI. So happy to have you here. So happy to hear all of your opinions about the game. I do feel like this is going to be one of those games. One of those more divisive ones. Some people are going to love it. Some people are going to hate it. I think that's truly what makes Final Fantasy great. Is that all the games are so different. And we all have such different opinions. So I don't want anyone to feel like they can't give their opinion. I would love to hear what you think, even if it's the complete opposite of mine. Like we talked about earlier today, you know, I really hope that we can be a community of discussion and not an echo chamber. And I don't want to be this, I don't want to feed into this echo chamber of, it's not Final Fantasy, so blah. Like, talk about it. Why, you know, why, what is it about this game that doesn't hit the notes that you think a Final Fantasy game should have, you know? Let's not be an echo chamber of negativity. Let's talk about what's good about it and what's bad about it. For me, I think that as a modern Final Fantasy, this game fits. There are certain things, you know, I was going to bring this up too. I don't want to launch into another 20-minute discussion, but one thing that if I were to point at this game, if you were to say, okay, Death, what about this game is a Final Fantasy and what about this game isn't a Final Fantasy? I think one of the big things I would point to towards this not being a Final Fantasy is the party. I kind of miss party mechanics. I feel like that's a big staple of Final Fantasy, whether or not it's a turn-based RPG, an action RPG, a tactical RPG, whatever it is. I'm kind of missing that party mechanic, you know? We have Jill throwing icicles, and we have Doggo, but it doesn't feel like a party. It doesn't feel like I have different characters doing different things, different classes, different abilities I can work. Like, there's no... Jill can freeze them, and then I can blow them up. Like, there's no interaction with the characters. They're just kind of doing their own thing. I think the most I have is when there's an aerial enemy, I can tell Doggo to hit the aerial enemy down so I can hit them. Or if it's a down enemy or grounded enemy, I can have them hit them up, and then I can do my aerial move. But like, that's it. Like, there's no real party member mechanics that you would normally see in a Final Fantasy game. So for me, that's a big negative, just in terms of it being a Final Fantasy, not in terms of it being a good game. I was also going to say that the general goal of the game doesn't really fit Final Fantasy, but that definitely changed with the scene we just watched about, like, saving the world from the darkness now. So, like, now we're really... we've suddenly shifted into, like, the typical Final Fantasy story. The only exception being, like, we don't really have a party of ragtag individuals that all come together to save the world like a normal Final Fantasy would have. Instead, we have a royal lineage, kind of similar to 15, funnily enough. But yeah, other than that, though, the RPG elements are weak also. You know? The normal equip the right thing for the right situation just isn't there. Even the accessories, you really just have your build and that's it. There's no strategy. There's no, like I said, equip the right thing for the right battle, or your typical RPG stuff. No ailments, no elements. So yeah, I hate to say it, but I think this is the most un-Final Fantasy I've played of the whole series. Honestly, being brutally honest about it, I think it is, and I don't think that's I don't think that's a hot take. You know, I don't think it's a hot take at all. It's an action game, so it's as far away from the combat as all the other games. The RPG elements are weakest in this game than any other. The party mechanics are the weakest from any other. And again, I feel like I have to explain myself because I can hear the typing now. I don't mean that as a bad thing. I'm just saying, I think it's the most un-Final Fantasy of the series. I think those that complain about modern Final Fantasies being too different from the originals, they're going to have a heyday with this one. That's what I think. And I've already seen it in some of my comments. I've already seen people, you know, this isn't Final Fantasy. But I would wish that those people would say more like, it's, well, I don't know. Now that I really think about it, clickety clackety. I think that saying that it's a bad game because it's not Final Fantasy, I think that's where the real issue is. Because like I said, this is Square Enix's this is their vision for the future of Final Fantasy. So this is Final Fantasy because this is the future of Final Fantasy. I think the issue is people don't like the future of Final Fantasy, which is fine. But I guess it just leads into this other discussion of, should it have been called Final Fantasy? Are we so far off the original series that it's just a marketing ploy to call it Final Fantasy at this point? I think because of the story, probably not, but I could at least see the argument. I just want to be... I want to be clear about what I mean when I say I don't like the echo chamber of this is not Final Fantasy. If you play this game and you think this is too far off Final Fantasy for whatever reason, whether it be the combat or the story or the RPG mechanics or whatever, that's totally a fair assessment. It's just that I don't like the echo chamber of negativity of people that didn't even play the game and they just see a modern Final Fantasy and immediately say, not Final Fantasy, and just blow it off and just, you know, try to ruin it for everyone else. Like, try to ruin it for people that like modern Final Fantasy. Try to ruin it for people who have kids that didn't grow up with the turn-based RPGs but enjoy the more modern Final Fantasy games. You know, and just try to ruin it for everyone else. If your opinion is that it's not Final Fantasy-ish, that's fine. And even to explain it that way is fine. But I just don't like the overwhelming negativity of just as soon as they saw the first trailer, not Final Fantasy, and now I'm going to hate everyone that likes it, and I'm going to comment on every video I can see about it, about how it's not Final Fantasy, even though I didn't play it myself. You know what I mean? Like, that's the echo chambering that I dislike. But I just want to make that clear because I think that the thought that this game is not Final Fantasy is totally valid. Totally valid. And even saying Final Fantasy XIII isn't Final Fantasy enough is a valid argument, a valid opinion to have. So I just want to make that clear because I realize what I said earlier at the start of the stream maybe could have been construed the wrong way. And I didn't mean for it to be construed that way. I don't mean that you can't have that opinion. So hopefully I was clear about that. If I wasn't, I apologize. But yeah, you know, you can certainly have that opinion. But just, I don't like the skip to negativity and not even giving it the time of day. And more importantly, not giving people the time of day. You know, not saying that people aren't even allowed to enjoy it. You know, I see that a lot with, like, you know, people play Final Fantasy 14 or people play Final Fantasy 15 and enjoy it, and people say you're not a real Final Fantasy fan. It's like, well, they are. They enjoy Final Fantasy 15. That's a Final Fantasy game. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't make them any less of a Final Fantasy fan. If your favorite Final Fantasy is Final Fantasy 1, or your favorite Final Fantasy is Final Fantasy 15, that doesn't make you any less of a Final Fantasy fan. And there's an issue with the Final Fantasy community, with these diehard people that think that if you don't like 1 through 9 and that's it, you're a bad fan. And that's just not true. You can have any opinion you want on any of the games you want. They're so different. They're so divisive on purpose. You know, Square Enix tries to make each game totally different from the previous on purpose, because that's what Final Fantasy is. It's all these different stories and all these different types of games, but all under the same series. And so we should embrace that. We should embrace the fact that all the games are different. You can look at this game and be like, you know what? It's too much. It's too different from the rest of them. And that's a valid argument. But you shouldn't hate people for liking it. You shouldn't hate or call people not a Final Fantasy fan because they like it. You know what I mean? So, because I've always thought that's the beauty of the series. I agree. I have always thought that the beauty of the series is how different it is. You look at Final Fantasy VII versus Final Fantasy VIII and how different those games are. Sure, they're both turn-based RPGs, but that's pretty much where the similarities dissipate. You know, they're so different. And between 9 and 10, and between 10 and 11, and between 12 and 13, and even between 6 and 7, they're so different. And that's the beauty of it. So, you know, that's my spiel. But hopefully that made sense, and hopefully no one takes that the wrong way. Like, you're not allowed to have an opinion that this game isn't Final Fantasy-ish. Because like I said, I'll say it again. I think this is the least Final Fantasy-ish Final Fantasy. I think this is the most different we've seen it ever go. And that's definitely going to rub a lot of people the wrong way. 100%. There's going to be a ton of people that are like, not my Final Fantasy. Take it back to the store, or don't play it at all. There's going to be a lot of people that, you know, burn this game at the stake and say this is the end of Square Enix. Guarantee it. Because it's different, and they don't like different. So, but that's okay. That's their opinion. They're okay to be that way. But it's definitely, I agree. It is different. It is very different. And I'm enjoying it. I'm enjoying it a lot. But it's very different, for sure. Even more different than the remake. And that's saying something. Because the remake really slapped people. You know, they were like, whoa, this is so different. There's still people complaining about how different the remake is. The people that saw the remake and they were like, I'm out, Square Enix has jumped the ship, I can't imagine what they think of this. You know? Can't imagine what they think of this. Look at my comment section. It's not so apparent that they've left. But that they don't want to leave because they want everyone to know how mad they are at Square Enix. That's fair. That's their opinion. You don't have to like the remake. And the remake was different also because it's Final Fantasy VII. So a lot of people were frustrated with the fact that it's Final Fantasy VII, but not Final Fantasy VII. This is not a remake. This is Final Fantasy XVI. You should expect it to be different. You know, there is a big difference between making the next game in a series quite a bit different than the previous, and making a remake of a game quite a bit different than the original. I will admit to that. That is a very different jump. I could see someone being very frustrated with the remake, but actually liking this. Because it's two different things. You know, a sequel to a game doesn't have to be exactly like the original. But a remake of a game should have its certain qualities that are similar to the original. Some people would look at the remake and say it's too different from 7. Me, I think it's a masterpiece. Sure, the combat is different, but the combat is not the only part of the game that matters. The game added so much to the story that stays in line with the original, but amplifies it. And sure, parts of it were crazy, but so many character moments that we got to see in the original, we got to see again in the remake, but amplified. So many character themes that can now be built on even more now that we have more to see of them. The list goes on. So, you know, but this is a sequel. This is Final Fantasy XVI. So it's different. It's not exactly the same as a remake or a remaster. People have certain desires out of a remake and a remaster. You hear Castlevania remake, and there's certain things, so you're like, it has to have this, or else it's not my Castlevania. And that's the way the remake was, to a T. When the remake was announced, everyone had their list. It better have this, 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 and this, and if not, it's not my remake. And that's just the way remakes go. And that's why remakes are hard. And why they get a lot of backlash when they're not perfect. Because people have so much love for the original games, and they don't want to see it destroyed by a remake or a remaster. Especially remasters. Remasters really frustrate me when they're bad. It's like, what was the point? And when you remaster a game and you make it worse, there's no bigger gaming sin, in my opinion. Because now you have people playing the remaster and thinking, wow, the original must have sucked. If this is the remaster, you know? So it's like actually actively hurting the original game. Final Fantasy VII Remake doesn't hurt the original game. It's its own thing. But imagine they make a Final Fantasy VII Remaster and it sucks. Now it makes 7 look terrible. And that's what sucks about remaster. Like, remasters definitely need to stay at a high quality. Like Final Fantasy VIII Remastered. Oh my god. Don't remind me. Anyway. Yeah, don't remind me. Yeah. Alright. I said I wouldn't go on a 20-minute rant. It was only a 12-minute rant. We're out! Thank you so much for watching, YouTube. I love you. Hope to hear all of your opinions on all of this, because I would really love to hear it. Love to hear your take on all this. We will see you in the next episodes of Let's Play Final Fantasy XVI. We'll see you there. Peace.